Hey, it's Debbie Potts, and I'm recording again, second time today, a solo podcast. And I have another recording and a little bit with someone on cold plunge pools. But I am feeling powered up, empowered, passionate, and on a mission to help you, the endurance athlete, be fit and healthy from the inside out. Part of that is learning how to eat, how to train, and how to optimize our health, our hormones, and our gut health, proper digestion. All that goes with what we eat, how we eat, when, but also managing our stress, optimizing our sleep, prioritizing protein, getting movement throughout the day, getting our lifting weight session in a few days a week. There's lots to it. It's not just doing long cardio, chronic cardio. We got to look at everything. So I call it the holistic method. And today I just want to do a little mini podcast on insulin resistance because it's really driving me nuts that I cannot get a doctor or for myself and clients to get their doctors to test insulin. You can go to Alta Labs and get it tested yourself for $26. But for some reason, our insurance companies, our doctors, don't understand the role of insulin, how it plays in type 2 diabetes, and how it plays in all these diseases if you listen to Dr. Ben Bickman. So first, I want to talk about screen share here. What is insulin? Insulin, it's a hormone made by the pancreas that helps glucose in the blood enter cells in your muscle, fat, and liver, where they're used for energy. Glucose comes from the food you eat. The liver also makes glucose in times of need, such as when you're fasting. When the blood glucose, also called blood sugar, levels rise after you eat, the pancreas releases insulin into the blood. Insulin then lowers blood glucose to keep it in the normal range. What is the normal range? We want to see 70 to 90 on our blood glucose readings. And you don't want to go higher based on functional medicine experts than 120, 130 is a high end. So you want to figure out the right nutrient dense whole foods for you that balance your blood sugar. And when you eat, after you eat, your glucose doesn't go up more than 30 or doesn't go above 120 and should go back down to that 70 to 90 range. Okay, so what is insulin resistance? Let's look at this article. Insulin resistance is when the cells in your muscles, fat, and liver do not respond well to insulin and can't easily take up glucose from your blood. As a result, your pancreas makes more insulin to help glucose, just like a key, helps glucose enter your cells. So glucose comes to the door, insulin is the key to open up that door and let it in. As long as your pancreas can make enough insulin to overcome your cell's weak response to insulin, your blood glucose levels will stay in the healthy range. But insulin resistance is when the cells do not respond well to insulin. They said, I don't hear you knocking at the door. I'm not opening the door for you. You need to stay out. So what is pre-diabetes? It means that your blood glucose levels are higher than normal. What is normal? 70 to 90 fasted, but not high enough to be diagnosed as diabetes. Pre-diabetes usually occurs in people who already have some insulin resistance or whose beta cells in the pancreas aren't making enough insulin to keep the blood glucose in the normal range. Without enough insulin, extra glucose stays in the bloodstream rather than entering the cells, and over time you can develop type 2 diabetes. So why are we not preventing type 2 diabetes by looking at our insulin levels and avoiding insulin resistance? I don't get it. My dad passed away a few months ago and they would never test his insulin. They actually didn't understand what insulin was. They thought that's what you give someone because they're diabetic. Drives me nuts. So let's look at genetics. I'm going to do a whole podcast with DNA company on my results. So here's the results. If you're looking at my video version, the DNA company, I look at my nutrition reports. I can go to my carb profile, and then it tells me what are my results. So there's optimal genes, normal, suboptimal, and poor. I have a rare set of genes that has and will continue to set me up to success. Then there's normal. I may have helpful genes in this category more than unhelpful genes. And then it'll tell you suboptimal genes in this category more than helpful genes. And then there's poor markers that if you have no helpful genes in this category, you require focused support to optimize to prevent expression of the gene outcomes, epigenetics. So then the DNA company gives a report on carbohydrates, and then it'll tell me what's best for me. And I've done a bunch of different genetic reports, and they usually say I'm prone to type 2 diabetes. One report that was run by dietitians told me then I need to do a low-fat diet, which is opposite. If I'm prone to diabetes, I need to watch my carb intake. So this actually says, the DNA company says the carbs for my genetics, I'm likely to be a candidate for the diet, the meal plan, I hate the word diet, that integrates reduced levels of starchy vegetables like rice, pasta, breads. Ensure higher amounts of fiber, no more than 25% of carb intake from starchy sources, no less than 70% carb intake from fruits, vegetables, or other fiber sources. So then it shows me my genotype. So the function and the outcome influences the insulin sensitivity profile and the risk of insulin resistance. Now remember that yellow marker that's on my report is suboptimal. Red is poor. So I have suboptimal levels between starches and weight gain. So I have a moderate association of a diet high in starches and weight gain. I have suboptimal insulin sensitivity profile, increased likelihood of developing hyperglycemia, elevated blood sugars, if I eat a diet high in starches. Avoid processed and added sugars in the general and moderate fruit consumption. Keep fruit consumption during the day to avoid glucose spikes at night, which contribute to metabolic dysfunction. Oh, I get a thumbs up on a gene that I carry, a MCM6 genotype associated with lactose tolerance. So good thing, because I've been having my mozzarella cheese and my organic heavy cream splash in my coffee. Big red one here. You're likely to be gluten sensitive and respond strongly to the presence of gluten in your diet. You do not, however, carry suboptimal variations of the HLA genes with celiac disease. Now, this actually is true. I did the Wheat Zoomer by Vibrant Wellness last August, a year ago, and I am extremely off the charts reactive to gluten. So test and not guess, you guys, if you want to be healthy and optimize your future self. So you get the reports and there's recommendations, wearing a CGM. So that's great reports. So behaviors and all these recommendations. Okay, so that's DNA report. We'll do a whole show on that. Dr. Ben Bikman, I was looking up, he has an article, he's advisor on to Levels Health, and he was saying about insulin resistance, that the problem of using getting energy production, blood flow, insulin resistance will impact this. And in particular, in inner cells in the ear would be involved in hearing. What? Oh, let me skip over that. I'm reading the wrong part. Dr. Ben Bikman, this is in a podcast on Levels. Their takeaway is high metabolic rate cells, high demand for energy, and the part of the demand is met by glucose. As the body is becoming more insulin resistant, those cells become less capable of utilizing glucose for energy, and the cell is forced to rely on other forms of energy. So that's something to look at if looking at shifting to fat oxidation and start burning fat as the main fuel. But Dr. Ben Bikman speaks about elevated insulin that comes with insulin resistance tends to preclude fat burning. it wants to try to force a cell to rely heavily on glucose rather than fat use. So if you're insulin resistant, your cells need to be trained to use fat for fuel. So you have to look at fasting, looking at nutrition, looking at exercise, become more insulin sensitive. So there's great information there. Dr. Ben Bickman, I'll have to listen to that podcast, Levels Health. Now, Dr. Ben Bickman's website called Insulin IQ, it's called Insulin Smart Eating. I found this when I was researching insulin resistance, how insulin resistance is related to type 2 diabetes, obviously stroke, heart disease, obesity, migraines, dementia, osteoarthritis, childhood obesity, PCOS, which I've researched just yesterday for clients, fatty liver, arthritis, Alzheimer's, erectile dysfunction, sarcopenia, high blood pressure. A lot of things are related to insulin resistance, but then we can't get our doctors to test. So go into insulin measurements, Alta Labs. You go altalabs.com, partners/Debbie Potts coaching. Look up these labs. This is, look, $26. And then Alta Labs always has a 20% discount code. So check out Alta Labs. You can hit home on their website and then scroll down the bottom here. You'll see these baseline biomarkers. And I've asked them to add insulin. So it's not on there, but I'll send clients, depending on your budget, this is $298 or $398. Say you want to get a baseline. This comprehensive one does has the full thyroid panel with reverse T3, but there's not insulin. So you have to go in and add insulin for $26. So easy, but see how it has reverse T3. You want to get that to see your thyroid panel, T3 total, T3 uptake, free T3, total T4, and then the antibodies, not just TSH. That doesn't even measure your thyroid activity. So that is an option for looking at your iron, your A1C, CRP, liver function, all this. So the doctor's not testing this. Insurance, I guess, won't cover it. I don't know why. We're supposed to be preventative health. So go order that and then work with your doctor or ask me for help or find a practitioner. Insulin sensitivity, how do you improve it? This is an article from NutriSense, 9 ways to improve insulin sensitivity. Guess what number 1 is? Optimize your carb consumption. And again, we are usually talking to athletes here, so we can tolerate more carbs, but we're not talking about garbage carbs. We're talking about real nutrient-dense food as fruit, berries in season, potatoes, sweet potatoes, starchy carbs, cauliflower, broccoli, stuff like that. So insulin resistance, what we want to avoid. Okay, so testing your blood sugar doesn't tell you your insulin, but I've been doing biosense, and that's why I'm like on a high today. My biosense marker is at 12 and it just was at 13, which is high for me. I'm usually like a 5 or 6. I don't know if I'm breathing better into it, but I've been around 13. So I'm burning more ketones, but that means my insulin's down. So I've been taking berberine and trying to eat more and lifting more and doing more sprints. So maybe this is helping. But insulin signals the body to let glucose in. But if your body isn't listening to insulin, it'll be much harder for glucose to get in, leading to high blood glucose levels in your blood. High glucose levels over time can damage metabolic health. Now, also remember my story with chronic stress, that all stress, too much of it, can accumulate. External and hidden internal stressors that a lot of us have, parasites, dysbiosis, leaky gut, constant stress in our gut, also adds to that beaker of stress. Constant stress raises glucose. If your glucose is always being shot up high from stress, you become insulin resistant, can become insulin resistant from chronic stress. If you have glucose up all the time, cortisol's up all the time, high cortisol all the time, also leads to low thyroid. So it puts everything on hold. So thyroid, cortisol, glucose, insulin resistance, they're all related. And then there's liver congestion. So you got to look at the whole picture. You can't just take a pill or supplement and expect to get better. All the lifestyle habits that I talk about in the holistic method with my clients is what you need to look at. So back to NutriSense article here. There's no perfect carb intake. This is what I try to stress. That's why I would test and not guess with Keto Mojo, NutriSense, Levels, Lumen, BioSense, and just find out what are my levels. How does carbs, I don't say low carb athlete doesn't mean zero carbs. Nutritional ketosis for people that are metabolically damaged in obesity groups are doing 20 to 50 grams of carbs. We might be able to do 100 to 200 grams. So it's not low to zero carbs. If you're an athlete, like I just went for a bike ride, I lifted this morning and I did an easy low zone 1-2 workout. I am moving. I'm going to go for a walk and do yoga tonight. So I'm not sedentary. I like to move. So I can tolerate a little more carbs, even though my genetics, I can't eat a lot of carbs, but because I'm active and I'm working on improving my lean body mass, I can tolerate a little bit more. So my carb consumption can vary. I try to limit it, but I also listen to my body, what I need. So eat the amount of carbs in the right way for you, the right amount for your body to take in. And it's going to be different for everyone. So doing the NutriSense for 90 days, or if you prefer Lumen or Levels, whichever one it is, Levels is the other option for CGM. The best way to figure out what's good for you is to get a CGM and really look at how food spikes up your glucose, because it could be a healthy food you eat all the time, but it can still spike your glucose up. So also stress, as I said. So optimizing carb consumption be a great approach in the beginning while working with your coach to get to the root of the issue, which is often everyone I work with, chronic stress from exercise, from life stress, from addicted to busyness to that chronic busyness syndrome. So identifying number 2, NutriSense says, identify the best carbs for you, optimizing your carb intake, figuring out which carbs work best. Also look at Rob Wolf's carb tolerance test that you can do. And that would use a CGM or Keto Mojo to test your glucose. So some healthy carbs may result in suboptimal glucose response. So you have to figure out which ones, as I said, work best for you, because not everyone responds the same. Engage in exercise is number 3. Tip will help your body respond to insulin. So best way to get insulin sensitive is to do more exercise. I think, other people say fasting more, but us athletes, exercising the right way, like lifting weights. So the exercise can increase muscle mass, and increased muscle mass takes more glucose out of the blood and into the cells. So Dr. Gabrielle Leon talks about this all the time. Think about your muscles as a suitcase. The larger the suitcase you have, more glucose you can fit into there, so you can tolerate more and keep your blood sugar down lower with exercise. And then timing exercise around when you eat. So if you ate just 30 seconds of jump squats, or go for a 2-minute walk after, climb the stairs up and down a few times, moving afterwards, help that glucose get out of the blood. So the weight loss you experience from exercise will also help boost insulin sensitivity. There's less fat, less inflammation, and less competition with insulin trying to get this into the cells of the body. Number 4, get the right amount of protein and fat for you. So you want to make sure you're getting all this in. Now, protein, 30 to 40 grams. Too much can backfire. So again, you got to find out how much you can tolerate and watch that glucose level. So that can backfire, but getting the macros spread out throughout the day. Inflammation, getting chronic inflammation reduced is super important. Anti-inflammatory lifestyle habits are really important. Vegetable oils are really important to avoid. Xenoestrogens, obesogens, engaging in healthy habits. So all this is listed in the article. Getting some sunshine. Interesting, improves vitamin D levels and insulin sensitivity. So one study found that getting adequate amount of bright sunshine was linked to a reduce of insulin resistance. Research showed that healthy sun exposure resulted in decreased fasting insulin levels. Pretty cool. And sunlight exposure was also found to improve LDL, cholesterol, triglycerides, and helping decrease risk of type 2 diabetes. So everyone needs to move down here to San Diego, where we have a lot of sun. Number 7, boost your micronutrients in your diet. So healthy lifestyle habits are important, but also looking at what you eat, getting those micronutrients for the antioxidants. So magnesium is in avocado, a dark chocolate. Read your ingredients, make sure it's real good dark chocolate, plenty of fiber, fruit and vegetables. And again, some people that have gut issues can't do a lot of fiber. So that's going to be individualized. Whole protein sources rich in amino acids, L-carnitine, taurine, L-arginine, pasture-raised eggs, poultry, grass-fed beef. This is why I started focusing on meat, because my nutrient test I did a year ago from Vibrant Wellness, I was low in a few of these. So eating more red meat and grass-fed beef, steak, stuff like that is the red meat. I'm getting more nutrients. And then everyone I find needs more crucifix vegetables, because everyone has some level of liver detoxification issues, phase 1, phase 2, and especially phase 3. And we need to work on a liver detox, getting their liver sauce from Quicksilver, a little detox binder, or doing some fasting to help their liver congestion improve. So adding more broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, our foods rich in insulin sensitivity, improving glutathione. Getting glutathione is really important from your foods. These crucifix vegetables help make glutathione, but also I like Quicksilver brand. And I can give you my link on FullScript so you can order all these good quality supplements under my account with a discount. All right, last two, reduce stress levels. My number one thing I work on with everyone, too much stress can encourage insulin resistance. Huge, right? This is my story. I was living life as a race. Every stress response is a blood sugar response. And I did a podcast on this somewhere talking about stress, cortisol, glucose, insulin, and thyroid that I talked about earlier today. Helps reduce inflammation, helps regulate hunger, and can help glucose levels stable too. So reducing stress or managing your stress, doing breathing exercises, 1 minute, doing some breath work, doing box breathing. That always puts me to sleep too. If you wake up and you can't fall back to sleep, just count. Think of Ernie and Bert. Ernie counting the sheep, you can count your breath. All right, another study, according to diabetes in the UK, stress results in high levels of hormones, it's cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones, as inflammatory markers, are molecules will make it harder for your body to respond to insulin properly. So tips to reduce stress. This is a great article by NutriSense. Engage in mindfulness. Try meditation, block of time for me time. As I was telling my clients, where's your self-care time? Self-care, self-love, you got to do it. Take daily walk breaks, set boundaries, and incorporate other tips already mentioned, as getting sunlight, as I did, morning sunrise, and I'm trying to get the sunset walk, eating an anti-inflammatory, micronutrient-rich diet. Really important. And my other priority, sleep. You need to get enough sleep, quality sleep. And I use my Oura Ring to track it and then figure out what works best for my sleep hygiene routine to optimize my sleep. So getting adequate sleep, I can't talk, is good for overall health, but can increase insulin sensitivity by reducing stress and mitigating inflammation. But looking at not getting good sleep can be a risk factor for insulin resistance. So tracking with Whoop or Oura Ring, I don't think it's good to wear an Apple Watch to bed or a watch that's on, unless you can turn something in airplane mode. I like Oura Ring and then shut it off at night, but it's not, I think it's annoying to have something on my wrist, but I like Oura. Don't even know it's there. Other people prefer the watch. So try it out. If you want Oura Ring, I do have a discount code on my Oura Ring app. There's a discount to share with friends. Okay, sleep hygiene routine checklist is really important. So I work with this with clients. What are you doing? How you start your day is part of your sleep routine to optimize your sleep, as well as how you end your day. So just what you're doing right before bed, it's also how you start your day that improves sleep, as getting outside and getting your eyes gazing at that sunrise. So NutriSense, you can use our code Low Carb Athlete. As with everything, I put all the discount codes for the podcast sponsors on my website, so you can look at that. So go back to look at insulin IQ, understanding proven nutrition science, that how insulin resistant is related to most of our chronic diseases. So test and not guess, but remember, if you can't get your doctor to test your insulin, go to Alta Labs Debbie Potts Coaching and get it yourself. LabCorp is everywhere. You can just get it done. So control your carbohydrates, prioritize protein, and satiate with healthy fat. So carb timing for athletes is going to be a little different than all this information is metabolically damaged people. So if you're pretty good shape and you're not lean, you're not like 100 pounds overweight, maybe you're good to go with just timing those good clean carbs at nighttime at dinner and staying lower carb during the day, or having your carbs after your more anaerobic workout. So prioritizing your protein, I like what Dr. Gabrielle Leon says. They say here 0.5 to 1 gram of protein per day per pound of ideal body weight. So don't make it complicated. So I think, 100 grams or more for most people ends up being making sure you adjust your fat and your protein based on how you feel. So I give people metabolic typing quiz and chart to check in. How do I feel? So healthy fats might make you feel full and satisfied, but other people might feel better with more protein. Some people go too low of carbs and they need to add it more. So meal planning, adjustment, those macros. We use Chronometer, and I use Practice Better, where I track everyone's food every week with their biometrics and see how they're doing, get feedback with my coaching clients. Being mindful and intuitive. So listening to your body is huge part. I'm a big fan of that. Adjusting for individual workouts and your schedule and stress. So I would look at this with my clients. What's your schedule look like this week? Let's look at your training schedule, your life schedule. Do you need to go lower carb, moderate, or liberal low carb? Is example here on this slide on insulin smart eating. So fine tuning over time, and then looking at the female athlete, the carb intake is going to vary based on menstrual cycle. So late luteal phase, you can go a little bit higher carb. Now, these are for people metabolically damaged, 25 grams. Again, we say with Endure IQ, Dr. Dan Plew says 100, 130 grams. Men might be a little higher, women a little lower. If you're postmenopausal, we're more carb sensitive, so we can't tolerate as much. So we're going to do more protein and fat as well. But we can add a little bit more carbs the week of luteal phase. So that's a great article to read. And I applied to take their coaching program. I think it's pretty cool, this Insulin IQ program. Like, I need more trainings to do, but I think this one's great. So check that out. There's nutrisense.com, insulin sensitivity article. And then I put all of this into an article I'm working on, what is insulin resistance? So you can find that on my blog, debbiebots.net, what is prediabetes, and really looking at how to test your blood sugar, right? I don't think a lot of people are doing that enough. So I think looking at, I think it was on the article from Nutrisense, had the beginning part. Here it is. Get your CGM data, find your fasting insulin levels, get your HDL levels under or more than 60, get triglycerides under 90. Your triglycerides to HDL levels should be 1 or less. Measure your waist, 40 for men, 35 or under for women. Blood pressure, 120 to 80, over 80. The ALT and AST or liver markers on your blood chemistry tests, you want 20 or less. And HSCRP, we want to really look at that one for inflammatory. So this gives good inflammation overview, but be sure not to exercise right before the test because those numbers will be off. So I just did a whole bunch of lab work last Friday. Luckily, I had food poisoning the night before, so I didn't want to do anything anyways that morning. So I did it truly fasted because I couldn't eat anything. So I might probably show up dehydrated, but I did not exercise before, which I usually kind of do a little. So more accurate blood tests, don't do anything before, wait till later to exercise that day. Uric acid, you'll find a lot of research, Dr. Perlmutter out on uric acid, aim for values under 5. So you want to look at that information. So that's all I have for today. So hopefully that gives you some information how to optimize your health. Even though you're an athlete, you're possibly chronically stressed, and we really want to manage that stress, optimize sleep, get more strength training in, prioritize protein, find that protein fat balance, and then carb timing, where to put those carbs. Does it mean crappy carbs? It means strategically placed nature's carbs that give you energy, especially if you're doing a higher heart rate workout. You need to replace that carb fuel tank. And, you can do it with a carnivore diet, but, some people might feel better having a little carbs as an endurance athlete if you're doing some of that 80% low heart rate, maffetone, zone 1, 2. I did a video on that earlier. And then your other workouts are hard, 20% doing those intervals, 10, 30-second sprints, or maybe for an Ironman, you're doing longer pieces like 1 to 4 minutes. So lots to go to. I keep trying to do 30-minute videos. Hopefully that helps you get some information to help you on your journey to be fit and healthy from the inside out as an endurance athlete or athlete in general, if you just want to improve the aging process. So especially if you're a female athlete and you're 50 years old like I am and perimenopausal, it's 10 years before you hit menopause, and then post-menopause, you're carb sensitive, your hormones are low, perimenopause and post-menopause, my estrogen's like at the bottom of how low. So I really need to lift heavy. Heavy means 3 to 6 repetitions, weights to fatigue, no more than 6, going heavy or going home. And then doing your cardio, zone 1, 2, and then days that you're going to finish that cardio with all out 10 to 30 seconds sprints. So short interval training, or, fill that into your zone 2 workout, which maffetone zone 2, that was my other podcast I did. So low heart rate or all out. So try to do that 80-20. All right. If you want more, just set up a discovery call with me and I can go over my 3 coaching packages. There's a new client, just if you want to say, hey, what am I doing now? What can I do differently? Let's assess and give some recommendations, 2 coaching calls. Then there's, let's look at the metabolic assessment, look at functional lab testing. Let's investigate what's actually going on under the hood, and then externally with the elements of the holistic method. And then there's my VIP coaching program that's 6 months or longer that we meet as much as we need to. I do your workout program, macro check, use your chronometer, and I track everything every day. So that's a kind of the full meal deal. So I look forward to talking to you. Don't forget to head to the website, debbiepotts.net. There's so many free ebooks I've put on there, and my website guys are helping me load up the new female athlete one and mapping out your cycle with your nutrition, exercise, and fasting. So let me know what you want me to talk more about, and we'll see you next week.